We continue with Yerushalmi. Today we are doing Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel on page Zayin Amud Aleph, and let's get going. So I'm not going to read the Mishnah to save time, also because the Mishnah doesn't get requoted in the Bible either. So anyway, but we're dealing now with what you need a beis din of 71 for. And it says things like when you're judging an entire tribe, or a false prophet, or a Kohen Gadol, and so on. And then other things which are not about judging, going out to a war that is of discretion, meaning not the conquering of the land of Israel, adding to the city of Jerusalem, adding to the temple, the borders, and so on, or the boundaries, I should say. So let's look at the Gemara. Yisachami, you can come see, like Tashma is the Yerushalmi, I should mention that out. By Tashma and the Bavli is come here. In the Yerushalmi, it's Isachami, come see. So it'd be interesting to explore. Well, no, it doesn't explore why one has one version, one has the other. Anyway, Shnayim ain't done. If you can't even judge two, well, Coach can't shave it. Certainly, you shouldn't judge a tribe, which it's unclear what the question is. One of the commentators here says what it means is that we assume, this is sort of being informed by the Bavli, we assume that maybe what it meant was if a tribe worshipped Avodah Zarah. And then it's saying, like, if there's a lot of people, even at a local level, like a city worships Avodah Zarah, you need 23. You need 71, excuse me.
How do you get that?
That's the case. Well, yeah, so it's a hard read of Shnayim. I don't know. But nobody has a good read of that phrase, okay? So this is the best that they can do. All right? So so therefore, so if that's true, if an entire tribe, of course you need 71. Whatever. The question is somehow like, clearly you should need a beis din of 71 if the entire tribe did some major sin. So why do you even have to mention it? So the answer is, you'll see a parallel to this in the Bavli. Amarav Masnaya b'nasi shvatim he masnisa. We're not talking about the tribe sins. We're talking about the nasi sin. So the same way a Kohen Gadol needs 23 and a king, 71, and a king needs 71. So similarly, a head of a tribe needs 71. Amar Rabbi Linzer,
if he was a version of Avodah Zarah?
What? No, well, whatever sin he's being accused of. Okay, it doesn't not specifically.
But it's a sin. It's not like it's dinei mamon.
Right, presumably not dinei mamon. Although we will see that again in the Bavli, so hold off. Okay, it's as with many things, it's not explored so much in the Yerushalmi. So that's one answer. We're talking about the head of a tribe. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, b'choresh shebein shnei shvatim he masnisa. So literally means if somebody plows between two tribes, what it means if there's a dispute between two tribes. You're not judging a tribe. You're actually two tribes. Like this is the Hague, right? This is the international court. Who do you go to if there's a dispute between states? You got to go to a federal court. So if there's a dispute between tribes, you got to go to the beis din of 71. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now Michael mentions the whole question about specifically Tchumim and about Nachala and whatever. That's where the Bavli is going to go, and maybe that's true here as well. But obviously, there's a logic that if tribes are having a dispute, you need a beis din that sits over all of the tribes. Okay, so that's the issue about Shevet. Now we get to the issue of what do you call it? Of Navi Sheker. How do you know a Navi Sheker is 71? Like, what makes a Navi Sheker a national issue? I mean, maybe it depends. Is he going around and prophesying in the entire land or not? But let's see what the Gemara says. Amar Zera Nemer Kan Zadon. Okay, Bizadon Dibro Hanavi. Okay, this prophet spoke with brazenness, or Benemer Lahalan Zadon, and it says by the case of what do you call it of Zakin Mamre. It says Zadon. Asher Yazid. No, that's Asher Yazid L'Daber Davar. That's by the Navi. The Zakin Mamre is what's the case by the Zakin Mamre? But Isha Sher Yaseh Zadon. Okay, so Bizadon Dibro Hanavi. Mazadon Shenemer Lahalan B'Navi Hasheker Kos Medaber. Avzadon Shenemer Kam B'Navi Hasheker Kos Medaber. Since one is by a Navi Sheker, the other. Now it doesn't literally mean it. It doesn't mean that the case of Zakin Mamre is dealing with a Navi Sheker. But it means that the case of Zakin Mamre is he's going to the central beis din, right? He says to the Makom Asher Yifchar, right? Asher Yifchar, Sisa Al Pi Hadavar Asher Yagidu Lecha Min HaMakom Hahu. It's talking about the case of Zakin Mamre. He is rebelling against the central beis din, the Sanhedrin of 71. So the same way that case of the Zakin Mamre is a context of the Sanhedrin of 71, the case of the Navi Sheker is judged by a beis din of 71. So we do it by that Gzeira Shava. Rabbi Chizkiya has another Gzeira Shava. Nemer kan diber. Okay, Bizadon Dibro Hanavi. Even Emer Lalan Asher Yedaber. Oh, I'm sorry, Diber by the Zakin Mamre, which is what's the Zakin Mamre? It says No, Michael, what's the Zakin Mamre? Okay, it says Diber.
How do you know this?
Asher Diber Davar. No, that's not the problem. Anyway, we'll figure it out. It's in the Bible. Okay, anyway, it says Diber by the Zakin Mamre, and it says Diber by the Navi. Asher Zadon Dibro Hanabi, or Asher Yazid L'Daber Davar Bishmi. Okay, so Mazod on Shenem Mazod. Where I lost my place. Asher Diber Navi B'Shem Hashem. It says Diber a lot by the Navi Sheker. So we link either through Zadon or Diber to the case of Zakin Mamre and says that it requires a basin of 71. Okay, now we move on. Piska. So now we move.
No, it's Davar, right? It's the Pia Davar.
Pia Davar, thank you. Okay, so now we go from the basin as judging and adjudicating, and to the basin as representing Klal Yisrael. We've sort of seen this by, the case of like the Egla Rufa. We've seen this by other cases. So now we go by going out to war through the authority of a discretionary war. Rambam says Milchemes Mitzvah is either the initial conquering of the land of Israel or a defensive war, Hatzalas Yisrael Miyatzar, but a discretionary war is different, and therefore you need special license to do it, right? It's always the whole question about, right, there's about what makes a just war, right? There's all these theories about that, right? So anyway, here, you need divine license to do it, and you need authority from the people. So authority from the people is represented by the Basin. Okay, it's like Congress, if you would. They sort of represent the people, as it were, and therefore, so you have sort of God's authority is also because of the whole question about like a Navi and an Urim V'Tumim. We'll sort of see those different components. Okay, so you need 71. Wait a minute, let's just get into this. So our Mishnah only mentions the basin of 71, but there's other components as well. So let's take a look at the Gemara. Which is like it originally was. We're basing ourselves on the original model. What's the original model? Vayal David bidvar Gad zemelech. Actually, I'm sorry. So the war issue is also mentioned in the Mishnah, and that gets discussed as well. But here we're focusing on the second part of the Mishnah, which is adding to the parameters of Yerushalayim. What are the boundaries of the city of Yerushalayim? What are the boundaries of the Beis Hamikdash? There, our Mishnah again says a basin of 71, but a Mishnah in Shavuos gives a much more detailed discussion of what is required. It says you need a melech, a king, a prophet, the Urim V'Tumim, a Sanhedrin of 71. You take 2 todot, 2 Thanksgiving sacrifices. You do a whole march around the parameters, around the boundaries of the place that you're expanding it to. You do a whole procession, and you're singing and whatever. And this whole is the thing that defines the new boundaries either of the Beis Hamikdash or of Jerusalem. All right, so that's what we're focusing on right now, not the going out to the war. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Omer Batchila, like it was originally. Vayal David bidvar Gad. This was in the case of the Goren of Arnon HaYevusi, right, which became ultimately, right, the Harabayas and so on. So he went up there by the word of God. So that was David and the Navi, Zemelech v'Navi. Okay, so that's the dedicating of the land. Okay, Vayachel Shlomo livnot et Beit Hashem Elohei Yisrael b'Har HaMoriah asher nireh elav, I think that is. Where God had appeared to him. So Elu Urim V'Tumim. So since it mentions like God appearing, and telling him to go do that, so that represents the Urim V'Tumim, like the direct message from God. What? Right? He had a dream. We're not saying we're sort of saying he did the Urim V'Tumim. We're saying that this sort of is the model for an Urim V'Tumim. Not everybody's going to have a dream in the future from God. Okay, but the Urim V'Tumim is the way to get the message from God. Okay, the David Avihu that appeared, it appeared to David his father. Zeh Sanhedrin. So somehow David represents the Sanhedrin. Why? Because we used him for Melech before, but because it's Avihu, because of Sha'al Avicha v'Yagetcha Zikenecha v'Yomer Lach. So the same way your father gives you the Masorah, your elders tell you. So here it's being used to represent elders and represent the Sanhedrin. Okay, so that's how we get those various components. Now, how do we know Hashir? How do we know you do it through a procession by song? So it says, Vayelech achareihem Hoshaya v'chatzi sarei Yehuda. Because by Nehemiah, this was really, of course, where we get a lot of this whole ritual when they dedicated, the space. So this is explicit in Nehemiah. So it describes them doing this, walking around and doing this whole procession. Okay, Todot, how do you know with the peace offerings or Thanksgiving offerings rather? The Amidah Shtei Todot Gedolot. Okay, that I presented or whatever, I positioned 2 of these big Toda offerings. And they went and they walked over on the right of the wall. They went around the wall by the gate of the Ashbot, which, as we know, Shar Ashbot is right by the Kota. Okay?
And because they did this once, we do this.
Right. So we are understanding that this represents the model of what you have to do to dedicate the city. Okay, so or not dedicate, but to expand the boundaries of the city. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Yudin, Maksiv Mahachot, Miksiv or Maksiv Mahachot, Lo Tahaluchot. It doesn't say Mahachot, they were going, but Tahaluchot. What is meant by that word Tahaluchot? Ella b'netilot ayidei acher. It means that the Todot were being carried through somebody else. That's tahaluchot. It's not that they were like walking the cows before they had slaughtered them, but somehow that they were being actually carried by someone else. Okay, that's just a parenthetical comment. So that's learning it out from stories in the Navi. Okay, but he learns it out based on a model in the Torah. Now that was more emphasizing. Well, that was a mix, right? Some of that was about the about the Beis Hamikdash by David. Some of it was about Yerushalmi. We require essentially the same procession, whether you're doing it for the Beis Hamikdash or Yerushalmi. But he learns it out from the Torah around the issue of the Mishkan or the Beit Hamikdash. So Kain Tasu is like Lidorot for future generations. Now, where do you see the idea that this has to be done with these components? So Moshe. So who was involved in the building of the Mishkan? Moshe, Zemelech, V'Navi. We got 2 for the price of 1 there. Okay. Aaron, Elu Urim V'Tumim. Although where Aaron was involved in the building of the Mishkan is not clear. I mean, I guess he was involved on like the 7 days of the Miluim. I don't know. Sanhedrin. Okay, that's all very nice. Where were they involved in the Mishkan? I don't know. Okay, etc. That's just I don't know why that's being thrown in the Shalavicha v'Yagedcha. Anyway, Hashir. Now, how do we know about the song and the procession? All right, that we already have to go to Nehemiah. Amar Rabbi Yishmael bar Rav Yudin. So Maksi Mahalchot Lo Taluchot Ela b'Netila Yidei Acher. So that's just a direct citation of what we said before from Nehemiah, the idea of the Todot and the song and the Todot were carried. Okay, so anyway, but it's not clear exactly how they managed to do it. By the way, I should mention, one question here is, like by the David HaMelech, is it just about expanding? Presumably, it's also if you have to rededicate, right? So there's all these questions, which we're going to get to in a minute, like after Chorban Habayis, very relevant for Tisha B'Av. So after Chorban Habayis, right, do we say that the Kedusha Rishon was Kisha L'Shaita V'Kisha L'Asid Lavo, the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash, or the Kedusha of Yerushalayim remained even after Chorban Habayis, or did they have to re-sanctify it, or the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael? All these questions. And if they were lost, how were they re-sanctified? Rambam actually has an interesting split. He says the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael was lost, but the Kedusha of Mikdash and Yerushalayim always remained, because that's based on God's presence, and that never departs. But it's possible that these sources, if you think about it, the source of the Mishkan, the source of David and Shlomo, it's not clear about the Bayit Sheni here, but those are also at the initial dedication as well. So whether it's what process you need to create that Kedusha to begin with, if it was lost or never existed, or what process you need to expand the space of Yerushalayim or the Azara, it's understood to be presumably the same process. Okay, so now it's how Kedusha Eretz Yisrael is a different story. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this: Ketzad hayu malchot. How would they go in the procession? Because they had the 2 Todot. So where would they be situated? Those 2 Todot. So Rabbi Chia Rabba, Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe. So it's a debate of these 2 Amoraim. Chadam or Zo Keneged Zo, one opposite the other, which presumably we'll see means like side by side. It sounds like it's going to mean. V'chana Amar, and the other one says Zo Acher Zo, one after the other. The 2 Todot, one was in front and one was behind, or were they side by side? They both learn it from one pasuk. Vatoda hashenit, the second todah, hochot lemul, which was going opposite. Vani achareh, and I was afterwards. Okay, you're talking. So mandamar zo keneged zo, that they're one like next to one another. V'hu yoshev mimuli, like it says by by Melech Moab and by Balak and so on, Bilam and Balak. He says they are sitting opposite me, so it's like facing. So it's like here understood to be like alongside, side by side. Umandamar zo achazo umalaketz rosho mimul arpo. Mul arpo means the back of the neck, so one behind the other. Okay. Now, if you're saying that they're side by side, so therefore, if like two people are working side by side, right? So then every place has only one toda that if this is the boundary that they're walking around, right? And this is the procession, and they're side by side. So this space. I mean, it depends whether you assume, is it going to be, is it going to extend it to where the outer one here is or the inner one? But whichever one it is, only one toda is sort of going in the place that's being sort of sanctified, or, the boundary. Whereas if it's one behind the other, right, then two todot are covering that space. All right, I don't know why that matters, but anyway, that's the point.
Well, or unless you have one on one side, one on the other, and the boundaries in between them, that sanctifies.
Yeah, that could be what mul means, but the reason I'm saying side by side is because the Gemara is going to sound like mul means what I'm sort of saying, side by side. So let's been reading. Okay. But if you say one behind the other, so wherever they were walking had two todot walking over. Okay, mandamar zo acherzo yeut detanina. Now, if you say that it's one behind the other, we say hapnimit ne'echelet. The Mishnah Shavuos says the inner toda is eaten, v'chitzonani srefet, and the outer one is burnt. So you can understand inner and outer.
When do you ever burn a toda?
Well, it's a special whatever. It's all exeris akasa. Okay, so the outer one here means one on the outside, and if the whole procession here like follows, right, and everybody else is like behind. So this is like the inner one, and this is the outer one. So we understand what inner and outer means. Okay. But if they're sort of going parallel, ezo hiya pnimis. So what's the pnimis? So that's actually a pretty obvious answer. Zosha smucha labayis. No, pnimis means the one on the inside track, as opposed to the one on the outside track. Okay, so it's not. That's pretty straightforward. Okay. Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Api navi ne'echeles, which seems to be like addressing, this was all like exeris akasa. Michael would rather said Api navi nisref.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but
anyway, so what do they mean by that?
Right, but yeah, so it's true. But anyway, it also seems that what we're doing is that but partly the point is, it's ironic because part of the principle here is that you only eat a toda in Yerushalmi. So if you want to define the new space of Yerushalayim, you're defining it by bringing something that can only be eaten in Yerushalayim and saying, no, this is now part of Yerushalayim. Okay, but the problem is, in the process of doing it, you're outside of the boundaries of Yerushalayim, right? So it's like a little bit like it's sort of
shechted there. You bring it back in the Beit HaMikdash area.
Yeah, no, I think it was already shechted, and then it was brought here after it was sort of brought as a korban.
Oh, okay. So I mean, they're not walking; someone's walking the meat.
That's why we said tahaluchot. That's what I said, not mahalchot. I'm sorry if I went through that too quickly. The animals are not walking. The korban is being carried. So it was brought in the Beis HaMikdash. So have you now brought a toda outside of Yerushalayim? Or is it in Yerushalayim because you've defined the new boundaries of Yerushalayim? So you split the difference, right? It's sort of like, so one is burnt, and one is eaten, because it sort of says that in a way it was sort of violating the boundaries.
It would have been burnt had it not.
Had you not rededicated, it would have gone outside Yerushalayim and it would have been burnt. But you were also rededicating, and you were defining it as the new boundaries.
Right. So you can't bring it back in once you brought it back out.
Yeah. So exactly. So you burn one and you eat the other. Okay. So where were we? Okay.
In some ways, then you should want to eat the outer one almost to show that this is the new boundary. The outer one is the one that's burnt. It almost shows it like it didn't work.
Yeah, it's a good point. But at the end of the day, it is the one that's more outer. But you're right. It's a good point. Okay. Okay. But that's the logic. You do something that could only be brought in Yerushalayim, and by bringing it out of Yerushalayim and doing this procession, you've made this new Yerushalayim space. Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, we did that. Amar Rabbi Yizera, Tani Taman, Navi Yeshkan, Urim V'tumim Lamanei Tzarich. Over there in Taman, which presumably means Bavel, they asked the question, look, if you're doing this with a Navi, if this requires a Navi, who needs an Urim V'tumim? I mean, when Navi gives you that channel to God, I mean, an Urim V'tumim presumably gives you more explicit and a direct message. But anyway, but that's what they asked. Ashkach Tani Rabbi Yehuda Omer, sorry, Urim V'tumim. But anyway, we've got a bright there that Rabbi Yehuda explicitly says, no, you do need both a Navi and an Urim V'tumim. I mean, it's funny, it's the brighter because I think it's actually the Mishnah in Shavuos. Anyway, I'm a Rabbi Yavo. He's Palgan Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Debate of Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Chad Amar. Bonin v'archach maktishin. Now this gets to this issue of like when do things come? Do you first build like this wall and then do, let's say the wall had fallen down. Do you first build the wall and then do the sanctification of the area? Or do you first sanctify the area and then build the wall? Okay, it's an interesting question. So what's it based on? So it says, if you say you first build and then you sanctify, you don't see the mechitzot like they are risen, like they already exist. What does this mean? So the Ridvaz here, one of the commentaries, gives what is, I think, absolutely the best explanation. It actually also relates to some of the Bavli's discussion, but it clearly works. The whole discussion is, this is what I said before, you come back, let's imagine Bayit Sheni to rebuild, or let's imagine Bayit Shlishi, whatever it is, the wall, well, Bayit Shlishi, we have walls now, but anyway, Bayit Sheni, they came back, the walls of the Beis Mikdash were knocked down. Anyway, the walls of the Beis Mikdash are not there, okay? So there's a question. Does it still have Kedusha? Is that Makom still Kadosh? Now, why is that relevant? You're about to sanctify it. It's relevant because how do you sanctify it? With a Todah. Well, 1 minute. How do you bring a Todah if you haven't yet sanctified it? It's sort of like a circular problem, right? You need the Todah in order to sanctify, but you can't bring the Todah if the place doesn't have Kedusha. So if you say, so there's a quick discussion in the Bavli, the way it's phrased, the terms used is, do you say makrivim afal pi she'ein bayit? You can be makri the korban without the actual Beis Hamikdash, okay? And the way another way of saying it is it like the walls are present even when they're not there? Okay, and that's the phrase here of rowing et mechitzot keilu hein olot. You see the walls as if they're rising up. You see the walls as if they're present, even if they're not here. So if you see it like you have the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, even if they're not here, and you can bring a korban, then you can go ahead. You first bring the korban, even without the walls. You have the todot, and then you sanctify. Okay, if you think that you cannot bring the korban without the walls, you've got to first build the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, then bring the korban, and then do the ritual. So that's how it works. So let's read that again. So it says like this: Mandamer bonin v'archakach makdishin. If you say you have to first build the Beis Hamikdash and then do this whole ritual, okay, you don't see it like the walls are there already. Since you don't see it like the walls are there already, there's no way you can bring the Todot without first building the Beis Hamikdash. So you build the Beis Hamikdash, you bring the Todot, and then you go ahead and you do this ritual. Of course, it does raise this question about if you needed to re-sanctify and you needed to build the walls, how did the place have Kedusha without doing the ritual? But maybe, again, there's a difference between the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash itself. Maybe that we're assuming, because the Yerushalmi meant, what do you call it? The Mishnah mentions this ritual to expand the Azarot, which are like the outer, so like the Har HaBayis area, and to expand Yerushalayim. But the actual space of the Beis Hamikdash, it could be that by building the Beis Hamikdash, that sanctifies it even without this ritual. Okay, so if you need to go ahead and do this ritual, if it's like the walls are already there, go bring the korban and then do the ritual and then build the walls afterwards. But if it's like the walls are not already there, build the Beis Hamikdash, bring the korban, and then do this ritual in order to expand either the Har HaBayis or to sanctify Har HaBayis or Yerushalayim. Okay, so that's sort of trying to ask me this question about like how do you even get started?
Didn't they build the Mishkan before they sanctified?
Build the Mishkan, well, before they did the Shivas Yimei HaMiluim. Right, that's a good point, and that's an interesting point as a precursor, because they brought the korbanot before it had been like fully dedicated for permanent use. They brought for the 7 days of the Miluim. So that's an interesting point too. Like you could build the walls and bring a korban even before you've like sanctified it for permanent use. That's a nice point. Okay, so anyway, here's that question. You have to build the walls of the Beis HaMikdash in order to bring the korban, in order to do the ritual, or could you bring the korban even without those walls? Okay, so now it says like this. Now let's say they wanted to expand. Heichal here sort of means like the space, not just of the Beis HaMikdash, but it's from context. It means the Har HaBayis. Okay, no, actually I take it back. It does mean the Beis HaMikdash because the question is
before it was a city, right?
Before it was the Yerushalmi, and because here the issue is that the same way you use the Toda here, because only the Toda could be eaten in Yerushalmi, so by bringing it out, it showed that this was the new boundary. So if you wanted to expand the boundary of, I think I misspoke before, it's not the Har HaBayis, of the Beis HaMikdash itself, what is the thing that could only be eaten in the Beis HaMikdash, that by taking it out, you could do a similar ritual. So there's a lot of things that could only be eaten in the Beis HaMikdash. The chatos, the asham, right? But the thing is that presumably we want to make it something similar, that it involves bread, or involves like, some type of a grain sacrifice. So what is the grain sacrifice that could only be done in the Beis HaMikdash that we would do a similar ritual by bringing it outside to expand the boundaries of the Beis HaMikdash? So it says like this.
So the Torah that they were bringing about was the bread and the Torah?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I hadn't mentioned that, but in the Mishnah in Shavuos, it specifically mentions the Shtei Lachmei Toda. It was with the bread. Okay, so it wasn't just the korban; it was with the bread. So we're looking for a parallel case of some type of a grain sacrifice to do for the Beis HaMikdash outside of the parameters. So so use the Shtei Alechem that's brought on Shavuos. Okay, that's bread that can only be done in the, what do you call it? In the Beis HaMikdash.
Well, they can only do it on Shavuos.
So the Gemara says, "Makdishin b'Yontiv." What, you're going to do this on Yontiv? I mean, come on, that doesn't seem appropriate for Yontiv. Ella b'Lechem HaPanim. Fine, use the Lechem HaPanim that they would switch it every Shabbos, and after they would take it off of the shulchan, the Kohanim would eat it. So after it's been taken off the shulchan, take it out and do it. So the Gemara says, "Makdishin b'Shabbos." What, you think you can do this on Shabbos? Ella b'Laila. Okay, do it Saturday night. So the bread still is kosher to be eaten then. Okay, it has to be eaten within the day, including the night. So do it Saturday night. Umakdishim b'Laila. It's so funny. It's a rhetorical question. Like maybe, well, who says? Maybe yes, but okay, it's obviously not. So I'm Rabbi Yosef Rabun b'minchas ma'afei. That was an easier answer. We do a mincha that is eaten. It's is eaten only in the Beis HaMikdash, and that's what we do. We bring a mincha and we do it outside of the Beis HaMikdash, and we expand the parameters of the Beis HaMikdash. Nicha ba'aliyatan min hagola shikri v'achal kitchu. So when they came up from the exile, they brought the korban, like we were sort of talking about before. If you say that it was makrivin afapi shein bayis, it gave them the ability to bring the korban, and then they would be able to sanctify and expand it either through a mincha, expand the parameters of the Beis HaMikdash, or through a toda, expand the parameters of Yerushalayim. But where did they bring the korban when they first came in? There was no Beis HaMikdash to bring the korban in. How did they get started? So I'm Rabbi Yosef Rabun b'Shtei Todos habaot mino v'givan. They brought it wherever they had a mizbeach. Of course, the funny thing is, you would think that would be nifsal b'yotze. You're not, it's one thing you bring it here and you take it immediately out, but you're expanding the circle from where you brought it. It's another thing, you bring your korban here where, currently the mizbeach is, and then you go to Yerushalayim to do the dedication. It's a little funny. Okay, Abba Shaul Omer, now, so we're moving on. Abba Shaul Shtei Beitzim, now it doesn't mean eggs. It's quite funny, actually, because just a few days ago we had in the Bavli where the guy said Beitzim, and it was supposed to be Bitzaim. So here, that is what it means, Bitzaim. That's the way it appears in the Bavli, this version. There were two, like, swamps, Hayu, Sham, that were near, and like, it was on Har HaZeitim, near Yerushalayim. Shatachtona v'Elyona, lower and an upper. Ein Kedushata Gemura. So it should be like Ein Kedushata Gemura, and it was not sort of fully sanctified, or the top one was not fully sanctified. Hatachtona, the lower swamp, Niskadsha, was included in the Kedusha of Yerushalayim, B'Kulan, with all of the whole procedure, presumably because it was during like the Yonah and the upper one. Some versions have it because the first one was done in the first Beis HaMikdash, so you had the Melech and the Urim V'Tumim, so it was like fully incorporated. The Yonah, so V'Atachtona Niskatcha B'Kulan, presumably in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. The Yonah, the upper swamp here.
Does it mean like the
whole procedure? The Yonah was when they came back in the time of Ezra, and they didn't have the whole procedure. Lo b'melech v'lo b'urim v'tumim, which of course begs the question, because if they didn't have the whole procedure at the time of Ezra, how did any of this work at the time of Ezra? So in the Bavli, they say that maybe it was all just Zecher Ba'alma in the time of Ezra, that it was really all Kedusha Shniyas Kitchalos, Kedusha Rishonis Kitchalos Lavo. It all is based on the original Kedusha. Maybe this was all Zecher Ba'alma. Anyway, the Yerushalmi is not getting into that question. Okay, Lefikach, because Hatachtona, the bottom one, because it had the full procedure. Amart's Ochlim Sham Kachim Kalim Umaiser Sheni. They treated it fully as Yerushalayim. They ate the lighter sacrifices like the Shlomim and Maiser Sheni. The Chaverim and the Chaverim, whatever, the group that was more careful about issues of Kachim and Tumatar, etc. Ochlim Sham Kachim Kalim Avalo Maiser Sheni. They ate Kachim Kalim and not Maiser Sheni. And that's bizarre, right? Because like if it's Yerushalayim, it should work both for Korbanot and Maiser. And if you would think that we're going to treat it like a little bit lower grade, then you would assume, okay, fine, eat Maiser Sheni, don't eat Korbanos. All right, I'm going to get back to them in a minute. Yonah, the upper one that was not really fully incorporated ever, Ama Aretz Ochlim Sham Kachim Kalim Avalo Maiser Sheni. They would eat Kachim Kalim, but not Maiser Sheni. The Chaverim, now here, the Gears in the Bavli and the Tosefta, and what you really have to say is, Lo Ochlim Sham Kachim Kalim Maiser Sheni. They wouldn't eat anything there. Okay, and mitnei ma lo kiksha. Why did they not incorporate it? Mitnei shaisa torfas Yerushalayim sham. Vaisa yichola likavesh misham. Because that was where Yerushalayim was exposed. Maybe that was easy access to Yerushalayim, and it could easily be conquered. So why does that mean why they didn't sanctify it? So what the Bavli says is not why did they didn't sanctify it, but if you weren't going to sanctify it, why did you incorporate it into the city boundaries? And it said, no, we had to incorporate it for for defensive reasons into the city boundaries because we were sort of like exposed here. But for whatever other ritual reasons, we didn't want it to have the full Kedusha of Yerushalayim. That's the way the Bavli explains it. This might say maybe they were afraid that this would be seized and they didn't want a place that had the sanctity to be seized. But anyway, so that's a little bit cryptic. I want to say one thing about this issue, though, about the difference about Kachim Kalim and Maiser Sheni. When you think about the Kedusha of Yerushalayim, you can think about it in two ways. The most simple way we think about the Kedusha of Yerushalayim is, as I mentioned before, like Rambam says, the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael went away in the time of the Churban, but the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim remains, is that we think of Kedusha of Yerushalayim as an extension of the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, right? Because it has the Beis HaMikdash in it, it's sort of like the suburbs of the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore you eat the Korbanot there and so on, okay? And that's one way of thinking about it. But it is possible to think about it a little bit different. Like you could think about it as sort of like the capital city, and walled cities in general have a higher level of Kedusha than unwalled cities. It's an interesting halacha, and you could sort of think about it as like a heightened level of the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael rather than a suburb of the Beis HaMikdash type of a model. And it could be the suburb of the Beis HaMikdash model is clearly the idea of the Korbanot. Why you eat Kachim Kalim in Yerushalayim? Because it's the suburbs of the Beis HaMikdash. But how about Maiser Sheni? Why do you eat Maiser Sheni in Yerushalayim? And does Maiser Sheni require that there be a Beis HaMikdash? It's an interesting question. I mean, it says Lifnei Hashem Elokecha Tochlenu, so it does seem that it is very much based on the Beis HaMikdash, but it's less directly so. Nothing is ever brought as a korban, right? So anyway, it's possible to think here that maybe that has to do with the difference. That maybe they ate the korbanot because maybe the following Rambam, the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, the Kedusha of Yerushalayim as an extension of the Beis HaMikdash remained in this space because that was sanctified during the first Beis HaMikdash, and that Kedusha remained. But the Kedusha of this space as Yerushalayim, meaning not, sort of like as a greater Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, right, that maybe required the new sanctification. That was lost after the first Korban Abayis, required a new sanctification, and maybe it never got that new sanctification. So it's interesting to imagine. No, because again, Rambam's position is that the Kedusha that's based on Shechina doesn't go away. So if you, let's say they did not re-sanctify Yerushalayim when they returned in the time of the, here talking about a particular place, it would still have the kedusha of Makom Hashchina, but maybe it would not have that kedusha that is not a function of Shechina. Anyway, that's one way of thinking.
Is like, more intense, right? So
but it's different. What I'm trying to say, it's not just more intense; it's different. Okay, it relates to korbanot as opposed to. So anyway,
so he's not a korban, therefore.
Exactly, that's a way of thinking about this bizarre thing. Okay, so anyway, let's finish this up. We just did that. Okay, so now we have the final thing that you need. 71 is to make the Sanhedriot for the individual tribes. So Talmud Lomar. So the verse teaches lishvatecha v'shafatu et ha'am. So all that really teaches you is that you need to have like basins over each tribe, not that you need a basin of 71 to do it. Enos in Yonidachas, you don't make an Yonidachas without a basin of 71. Rabbi Yochanan b'Shem Rabbi Yoshaya Tlasa Amarim. There are 3 Amarayim. And the Mishnah went on to say, and you don't make 3 cities in Yonidachas, and you don't make an Yonidachas on the border. So Chadamar Achas Osin Shtaimin Osin, you make 1 city in Yonidachas, not 2. V'charna Amar Hasmuchos Osin Hamifuzarot Enosin, which seems counterintuitive. You can make cities that are nearby Yonidachas, but you can't make 2 or 3 cities that are scattered on Yonidachas. V'charna Omer Mifuzarot Enosin Kolikar. No. You don't make any, maybe like even not 3, even just 2 or whatever. You don't make them scattered. Shemi Yafutsu Ovdei Kochavim Yavo Be'eretz Yisrael. So you don't have multiple cities as in Yonidachas, which exposes it for the enemies to come in. The east by Meimar Shemi Yafutsu Ovim Yavo Lidei Karcha. It's not just exposing for them to for them to invade, but you leave these desolate spaces if you make a lot of cities in juxtaposition into an Yonidacha. So it's not exactly clear what all the parameters that they're dealing with here, but these are questions about the concerns of making multiple cities, either when they're nearby or when they're spread out into Yonidacha. So we'll just end with this and move to the bottom.
I would have thought that